Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, a design-build company committed to remodeling the right way. Visit callmosby.com to get project inspiration for any room of your house.
From the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this is The Gateway. It is Wednesday, May 29th. I'm Wayne Pratt. Ahead, Kim Gardner is the first African-American woman to serve as St. Louis Circuit Attorney. She promised to change the criminal justice system, and some of her reforms have soured police officers. Gardner says she will continue to move forward.
You know, I'm a fighter. I don't like to feel like I'm a, woe is Kim Gardner. I signed up for it. I'm gonna fight.
St. Louis Public Radio's Beth Hunsdorfer on the challenges and successes of Kim Gardner's first term. First, the news. Missouri could become the first state without a single abortion provider. The state health department has refused to renew the license for reproductive health services of Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region. As St. Louis Public Radio's Sarah Fenton reports, that could leave more than 1 million people without access to the procedure.
The Planned Parenthood clinic's license expires at the end of the week. Representatives from the provider say the state wanted to interview several physicians who worked at the clinic before it issued a new license, an order the organization said it couldn't enforce. Most of the workers are independent providers that aren't employed directly by the clinic. Planned Parenthood's lawyer says the state hasn't said what it wants to learn from those interviews. Colleen McNicholas is an attending physician at the clinic. She says the state's decision to block the license is the latest attempt to make it difficult for people to receive abortions.
This is precisely what we've been warning of, and for some is already a reality. The day abortion is only a right on paper.
Planned Parenthood asked a circuit court judge for a restraining order to prevent the state from shutting the clinic down. I'm Sarah Fenton, St. Louis Public Radio.
Abortion is also in the spotlight in Illinois. Lawmakers have passed legislation that would protect abortion rights regardless of what happens at the federal level. Republicans argue it will expand access to procedures after a fetus is viable. Supporters say it does not change the current practice, which allows abortion after the first trimester only when it's critical to the life and health of the mother. State Representative Anna Muller, a Democrat, says opponents really want an end to safe and legal procedures.
The opposition doesn't trust women, and it doesn't trust doctors to make ethical, deliberate, and compassionate decisions when it comes to women's health care. And I find that offensive and disturbing.
The legislation still needs to be approved by the state Senate and signed by the governor before it can become law. The National Weather Service says anticipated crests along several points of the Mississippi River could end up being the second highest on record. The peak level was recorded in 1993. The Mississippi is expected to crest next Tuesday at around 45 feet in St. Louis. It reached almost 50 feet in 93. Illinois River crests will approach records set a few years ago. St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner made history when she was elected as the first African-American woman to hold the office. Gardner told voters that she wanted to reform the criminal justice system. But with half of her term over, it's been a rocky ride. St. Louis Public Radio's Beth Hunsdorfer explains Gardner's sometimes stormy relationship with police.
When Kim Gardner took office, the voters sent a message. They wanted change in the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's office. Gardner says she promised voters that she would protect the rights not only of victims but also of defendants, and she would restore the public's trust in the system. Some of those changes haven't been popular with police.
We had to make some choices that the police union are not happy with, but I assure you that the men and women that we interact every day, they do their job right.
That includes an exclusion list. She said it's made up of 36 officers who have credibility issues that are so damning they would have to be revealed to defense attorneys.
Well, our job as prosecutors is to evaluate the credibility of an individual regardless of their occupation, and I think that's some of the tension with law enforcement.
Officers can get on the list 4 ways: lying, being under investigation, not cooperating with prosecutors, or trying to bully prosecutors into filing charges. Jurors often give police the benefit of the doubt. Gardner says credibility is key, especially when it comes to police testimony. If a police officer doesn't have credibility, she won't call them. And she says that's just the kind of reform voters wanted to see.
I mean, the credibility of the officer is key for us to have a balanced, just, full system. I mean, when you have someone that may not be credible in terms of what they see, observed, they saw, that to me does just as much damage.
Heather Taylor is the president of the Ethical Society of Police. This union is comprised mostly of black officers. Taylor says some of the criticism of Gardner isn't fair.
It's absolutely racism, it's sexism, it's just coming from a place of ignorance.
55 law enforcement leaders from around the country signed a letter supporting Gardner's list. They say exclusion lists are common in other jurisdictions, but the list has driven a wedge between Gardner and the police union. St. Louis Police Association business manager Jeff Rorta is one of Gardner's most vocal critics. Rorta says the dysfunctional relationship between cops and prosecutors has a public safety consequence.
Well, I mean, St. Louis is a less safe place to live as a result of it, and the officers that I represent who go to work every day to serve the people of St. Louis and protect crime victims are pretty fed up with her.
Gardner said the numbers don't bear out Rorta's contention. Crime statistics show that violent crime is down 16% from 2017 to 2018. The list contains a tiny fraction of the police force, 36 of the city's nearly 1,300 police officers. And Gardner says police are rarely eyewitnesses to violent crimes. But outside of the exclusion list, there are other issues. Gardner's office charges about half of the cases that police bring to prosecutors. Some other prosecutors say that seems like a small amount, but every prosecutor can decide which cases they want to charge. St. Louis Police Chief John Hayden says it's important to police that arrests end with charges. Defendants can only be held for 24 hours without those charges, and lack of charges can be frustrating for police on the street.
Officers are going to get discouraged. Citizens and victims are going to get discouraged if they see the same people out again when they, when they know that they were arrested.
Gardner says the majority of cases she declines are because of lack of evidence and victims not cooperating. Gardner wasn't the only new face in the circuit attorney's office. Taylor said some of the most experienced assistant circuit attorneys moved on after the election.
Whether it was for personal reasons or pay, whatever the case was, I think that had to hurt.
Gardner says turnover is inevitable, partly because of the low pay. But she insists she has a good team who's committed to her vision. She says criticism by police won't alter her commitment to changing the criminal justice system. I'm Beth Hunsthofer, St. Louis Public Radio.
Our Shula Newman edited that report. Shula is the executive editor of St. Louis Public Radio. Music by Ryan McNeely of Adult Fur. I'm Wayne Pratt, and from the St. Louis Public Radio Newsroom, this has been The Gateway.
Support comes from Mosby Building Arts, a design-build company committed to remodeling the right way. Visit callmosby.com to get project inspiration for any room of your house.